Okay, we're going to look at Project 2, which is focused on creating a 2D animation of your completed logo. So you would have chosen a final logo from Project 1 that you feel that represents your film company the most effectively and really resonates to your particular target audience and the theme of your company. So you'll probably notice whenever you watch films, at the beginning of a film there is a bit of an intro with the logo or the company name, and it is basically there to really highlight and bring your attention to the company or the production team and what their focus is. So before we begin going through the Project 2 information, let's just have a look at a couple of examples of some logo animations. Now some of these have some 3D aspects. We're only focusing on 2D animation at this point in time. So think of 2D animation as flat images, 3D is more where you can see all sides of the particular object or design. We will be going and creating some 3D animations later on in the year. So let's have a quick look at the Pixar, Pixar animation. So you'll notice that logo is quite simple. Just got the text. We've got a bit of lighting. The animation clearly focuses on the little lamp that's jumping around, bouncing around, and replacing the eye in the Pixar name. And the whole idea is to create more of a humorous, animated feel to really represent that whole animation focus of the company. So, fairly simple but highly effective. The Disney logo you'd probably all be quite familiar with. That particular logo is probably a little bit older. There are more recent ones like the one down here. But basically, once again, quite simple. A lot of the tone or the feel of the logo is based around the music, and that plays a really big role in representing the theme of the company. So it's really important when you're doing that to choose some sort of audio that's really going to represent that theme. And a lot of focus on shapes, the line work, and lots of fade-ins and outs. To bring the logo to focus. As you can see here, quite a simple colour choice as well. This one is 20th Century Fox. Big focus on drama, action type films. So quite a powerful logo. The music once again really brings that meaning and focus of the theme. That's the big importance of that particular the logo. So this is a 3D logo, and although we won't be focusing on 3D at this point in time, you might want to add some 3D aspects to your logo, but we're really only focusing on 2D for now. But I wanted to show you this just because of the impact of the fact that this logo is quite simple, focus on the text, quite a lot of scenery in the background just to add to the narrative, and create that whole with the spotlight. It's really representing the whole theatre film focus. And once again, as I said, the music is the really powerful feature that helps represent the theme of the company. So keep those in mind, and also do a bit of research. Have a look at some other logo animation intros to give you a bit more inspiration. Now just remember, with the audio that you'll be adding to your final animation, it will need to be royalty-free music. So royalty-free music is basically music that people have created and have given permission for others to use it without any copyright issues. Don't use any like popular songs and things like that. We want to try and make it as original as possible. There are a few royalty-free music sites, and I'll explain those a little bit later on. Okay, so let's get back to the project 2 instructions. You remember, every time you start a project, there's the attend the project debrief meeting. This provides a bit of a brief background about what you'll be focusing on for this particular project, and it will also include some of the more individual dates. So the focus is on the client asking you to create a logo animation based on the recent logo designs that you've created, and the idea is that particular logo animation will be used for promotion purposes. So it will be placed on websites, TV commercials, it will be used in film trailers and other advertising as well. And so basically the animation needs to represent the company's style in filmmaking. And so, if it's, animation, if it's fantasy based, if it's action, you need to have some sort of representation of that in your animation. The target audience will be based on whoever you have previously mentioned in your client brief from Project 1. Because this is a new project and the client has come up to you and asked you to do something further, you will need to update your client brief to reflect what it is that the client is asking you. So you'll need to make a copy of your client brief from Project 1, and you'll need to update it so that anything that mentions the logo design, you would sort of change that and say the client has now asked for a logo animation based on the previous logo designs, and the focus is to have that particular animation used for promotional purposes and be displayed on websites and commercials. Make sure you mention what the purpose for that particular logo animation is. You also need to update the schedule dates as well. You may also need to update the budget as well to make sure that the animation is mentioned in that as well. These are the production specs. This is really just when you're setting up your animation document and what you'll need to include. So your animation needs to be no longer than 15 seconds. It needs to use the final logo that you chose in Project 1, and it has to have at least one piece of music and one sound effect in that animation file. Once you've completed that, it needs to be saved as a .mov, so a movie file, and I'll also, which is like a QuickTime file, because you'll be working in After Effects, and to provide evidence that you created the animation yourself, I'll also be asking you to take a JPEG screenshot of your workstation when you're finished, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we go along as well. As we scroll down, you'll see the individual due dates here for each of the parts of the task. So the client brief, updating the client brief. Now, I've got updating of client brief is due by Friday 22nd of March. At this point in time, I will, as we're a little bit past that, I'll extend that to probably, it's the 24th of March, so probably at least by like maybe the 28th of March. Really, I mean, you should be able to get it done in the first lesson, so I'm not going to say 20, I'm going to say the Tuesday, the 26th of March, because it should only take you 5 minutes to update your client brief. All you're doing, as I said, mentioning the animation, replacing it with the design, replacing logo design with animation, and explaining the purpose of the animation, and also updating the schedule dates. I will discuss the rest of these tasks below in a little bit more detail now. So debrief is important for those dates and also just a bit of background information about the project. If we go back to Moodle and go to work through the learning resources, you'll see here there's Project 2 Instructions 2019. It's really important not to rely on lessons and making sure your teacher mentions what you need to do. It's really important that you follow these task instructions word for word, because it really explains every aspect of the task in a lot more detail. It explains how to save your files, what you need to include. It's really important that you follow this. So as you can see here, step 2 is the client brief. So I've mentioned the client brief here. Step 1 is the animation discussion. So similar to project 1, you had that ideas meeting where you had to upload your logo designs and provide feedback on each other's designs. We've got this forum. If I just go back to the project 2 section here, you'll see that there is a section that says animation discussion meeting. Here we go. And you'll see that there's 5 topics here with questions that I'll need you to respond to. So basically, and obviously you're all going to be able to see each other's comments, so it's really important, one, that you don't copy and paste from each other and also from the internet, which can be easy to do. Make sure everything's in your own words, and it's really just getting you to think and consider where we see animation, how it's created, what kind of software is available, and what aspects of principles are important in animation. This is all important in being able to really understand the concept of animation and why animations are created. So if we go back to the instructions here, so topic 1, explain at least 4 basic animation techniques and principles. So all you really need to do, and there's lots of different animation techniques and principles. There's different types of animation. So think of like there's clay animation. If we have a look here, animation techniques. So there's vector-based, so there's the 2D animation, there's 3D animation, CGI, computer animation. There's traditional animation where it is hand-drawn. Animation is also the form, I don't know if you've ever saw when you were growing up, where people would draw these little pictures in the corner of like a pad of paper, and then they'd add bits to each part of the image on each bit of paper, and then when you flick the paper, it looks like the person or whatever you've drawn is moving. That's a form of animation. It's a traditional form of animation. So stop motion, cutout animation, there's lots of different techniques there, and types of animation. So discuss those and become a bit more familiar with how animation has developed over the years. And you don't need to provide too much, but if you're mentioning stop motion, explain what it is and how it's created. Stop motion is a great one. It's not as common these days. I don't know if any of you have seen the Schmacko ads for dogs. They're like treats. There's a clay animation based advertisement that's been on TV for quite a long time. That particular advertisement or animation was created in Adelaide, actually not that far from open access, by a company called Anifex. I recently went and visited, and it was amazing how all the effort and detail they go into making the models. And clay animation, you have to move everything like by a minuscule amount and then film it, and it takes a very long time to get to a point where things move and really animate. So a lot more full on compared to the type of animation we're going to be doing for this particular project. Okay, so let's have a look at topic 2. Explain how screen visual design and communication principles apply to animations. So remember we were talking about design principles and things like that for project one, like balance and line and color and things like that. So how do they play a role in animation? So you'll have to do a bit of research and look at what particular communication principles and designs principles are important in animations and help to really emphasize the focus of that particular animation. Some of this I can't tell you because I need you all to do your own research and to be able to provide some of this knowledge yourself. If you do have any questions, you're unsure about a particular question, let me know. But as I said, please write this in your own words and try not to. I know it's hard when you see other people that have written similar comments. Try and write it. If you want trying to say the same sort of thing, try and rewrite it in a different way if possible. But don't try not to copy. We want to and try and find different information as well. Topic 3, where and how is animation used in today's society? So, think of advertisements, but not just that, think of simulations and things like that. We use animation in a lot of educational purposes. So, teaching people how to fly planes, they have, flight simulators, they have animations and things that are used to help doctors learn how to do certain surgeries. There's so many different types of animations, and even think of games as well. They're all certain types of animations. Topic 4, what animation software programs are available today? Choose 3 to discuss. In your discussion, outline some of the costs, features, pros and cons of these programs. Obviously, we're using After Effects because it is a highly recognized industry standard program. There are other animation programs. This project is, as I said, is based on 2D animation. But you could still do it for 3D based programs as well. But we'll be using Autodesk Maya for the 3D animation. There's also a program called Blender. There are heaps of different animation software out there. So the trick is to do a bit of research, learn about the pros and cons, even do pros and cons, compare them to After Effects and see how they might shape up, and then provide a bit of information about them. It's always really good, especially because some software is really expensive. We can't always, have the most up-to-date software, so we need to find software that will, be able to give us the same scope or similar opportunities, and that aren't obviously as expensive and hard to get access to, basically. Topic 5 is basically what are the intellectual property considerations of using images. Oh, it hasn't quite finished. I will add that on, but if you go into topic 5 here we go. What are the intellectual property considerations of using images from external sources? So this is all to do with copyright. So copyright is all about making sure that people don't steal from others, basically, and take ownership. So we have copyright in place to avoid that. Obviously, if you go to a lot of effort to create something new and then someone goes and takes that and claims it as their own, you'd be pretty upset. So it's really important to have a look and see what the rules are in relation to copyright. In any design, we all get inspiration from other people's works, and there are elements, and it's a big part of creativity is copying other people's ideas. And copying is okay, but as long as you transform it, you change it and you adjust it to make it more unique and your own. You can get inspiration from others. You can't just copy it straight away and use it like that. You need to make the changes and you need to transform it into something completely original. We'll be talking a bit more about copyright later on, but if you can do some research now, really important to consider this as you're doing these projects. No matter what you do in terms of design, copyright should always be in the back of your mind, because when you're in the workplace, and this has happened to some people. They've received letters saying that they've infringed copyright. They've obviously copied something, and it talks about what their actions are and what the consequences are if they don't, take their design off, and so on. So make sure that you understand what copyright is and how to consider using images from external sources. Obviously, you need permission from the owner. Sometimes you have to pay to use things. Sometimes it's a good idea to avoid that, to use royalty-free type imagery and things like that to avoid those sort of issues, or use your own original stuff if you can. So they're the 5 topics, so only focus on the ones that say topic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in capital letters here. Obviously I'll update the task sheet to say external sources. I'm not quite sure why that's missing that on here. Yeah, so if you have any questions about the animation discussions, please let me know, but try and get them completed as soon as possible. The next step is the storyboard. So if you haven't done a storyboard, the idea of a storyboard is, when you're working in a production team, everybody needs to understand how the animation or the production is going to work. So they need some kind of visual, especially, so for example, and let's say this is for a film, so we're actually going to do some filming. So the filmmaker would need to know exactly what shots they're filming. The editor will also need to know what shots to use and how it would work, and so on. So basically, think of a storyboard as like a bit of a comic strip where you're drawing exactly what's going to happen in each shot. So we have a visual representation of how the animation would play out once it's all finished. The idea is also to document, what audio is going to be playing during those shots, and what if there's any voiceovers, sound effects, anything that's going to happen in each of those shots, any text, and so on. So basically, if we go to back to Moodle and have a look in the work through the learning resources, you'll see that there is a storyboard template here. So it looks like this. So for every shot, you'll be drawing a picture, and if you can't draw that great, that doesn't matter. You can do stick figures, that's fine, as long as you provide enough detail to show exactly what's happening. So for example, if in your animation, you're going to make it look like each letter, each part of your, each letter of your logo is going to appear one at a time. That would mean, so say for example, if I just say film, okay, so we had this blank frame here, we'd have the F appear, and then in this next shot, the F would still be here, but then the I would appear, and then in the third shot, it'll be F, I, and then the L would appear, and then F, I, L, M, the whole text would be here. And then if other things were coming, we'd keep going. You might need more than one document, it really depends. So you're really explaining what's going to happen in each shot. You'll need to explain it, what's happening. You'll need to explain what audio is going to occur, so what sound effects. Remember, you need to have a sound effect, and you'll need to have some music. So have a think about that. Have a think about that while you're doing this, so you can really get a really good understanding of what you want your animation to look like. With the framing, just ignore that, but so shot, where it says shot, you'll just say 1 to the order of how many shots there'll be. And for the duration, obviously remember your animation will be no more than 15 seconds, so have a think about how many seconds each shot will be to add up to 15 seconds. As I said, you might need more than one document, but yeah. If you have any questions about that, let me know. This is an example of a storyboard from a student last year. Her focus was on fantasy-based. So you can see here she started off with the star appearing and it's falling down. So it says star starts falling from above, and she's got falling sound effect. 1 second, 2 seconds, star lands in middle of the screen. Once again, the falling sound effect still occurs. Text fades in, sparkles appearing sound effect. She probably should say sparkle kind of sound effect. Once again, text fully appears, sparkles move, and then shooting star appears underneath the text, so sparkle effect, and shooting star goes across the screen. Now, she hasn't actually mentioned what audio music she was playing as well. You need to have some sort of music as well. So this is the final concept that she created. So as you can see, she did have some audio playing, and she's got all the other sound effects that she mentioned, but she hasn't mentioned the actual audio playing. So obviously it was a royalty-free piece of music, but she needs to mention that. And sometimes it is difficult. You probably won't know exactly what audio you're gonna use until you start experimenting in After Effects. If that's the case, just make sure you go back, do the majority of your storyboard, and then go back and add that to your storyboard template. In terms of royalty-free music, there's lots of websites. Some you have to sign up, some you have to pay. I like Bensound's royalty-free music. I find there's not a huge amount, but there's some good snippets that you could potentially, edit. And what you'll need to do is you'll need to use some sort of audio program like Audacity, if you've heard of that. It's a free editing program. This website's not working. That allows you to edit clips and save them. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to edit the audio prior to putting it into After Effects. So you'll have to edit your audio, make sure it's 15 seconds, and then also work out how long each of your sound effects will need to be. You don't have to put them all on the one file, but you need to make sure all the audio that you're going to use is the correct amount, so that when you add it in, you can just place it. You can't edit the music in After Effects, if that makes sense. I'll explain it a little bit more later on. For some reason, this website's not working. But this website, bensound.com, here I think it's working now, is a really good program, software. So here you can see some of them you have to pay, but some you can just play, and it's really good, quality music as well. That one. Obviously, if you listen further along in the audio, you might find other little snippets that you really like as well. So I would suggest having a look through, seeing if any of those resonate with you and help reflect the theme. If not, have a look at other websites. In terms of sound effects, just hopefully. We had a few. No. You can just look up free sound effects. Or you might want to record your own sound effects, that's fine. So free sound, zap splat. Try and look for the free ones. Some of them, as I said, will make you pay for them, so you have to see how you go. But obviously we want, free clips so that we can avoid any copyright issues. If you're having any issues trying to locate any particular files, let me know. Once you've done your storyboard, you're then ready to work in Adobe After Effects. There's a separate tutorial that explains the use of After Effects. If there's anything in particular that you would like to know that I haven't covered, let me know. But just remember as well, there's heaps of tutorials on YouTube as well that explains different effects and things like that. There's just so much that I could go through with you, but we don't have a huge amount of time. The focus of this course is to give you the basics so you can, make a start and create a basic animation, and then it's up to you if this is something, an area that you would like to pursue further. Go for it, do lots of research, and try and learn other effects to create even more creative animations. So I'm going to continue explaining the rest of the project, but see the other tutorials on how to create your animation in After Effects. So as you can see here, with the actual animated logo, you'll need to make sure that you set your document up with the following production specs, and I will explain that in the tutorial. It's all when you begin your document, setting up your size and the frame rate. And obviously here, if we just go down a bit, once you've finished, you'll need to, so as you create one, you'll need to send me a prototype, just so I can, like a draft, so I can, see how it's going and provide you with some feedback. You'll also need to do a screenshot of your workstation to show all the effects that you added to your animation, and obviously your final animation, which will be a .mov. And you'll notice here, and I'll just go back a bit, with your storyboard and your client brief, I've asked you to put it in a zip folder, and you need to name your file with the following naming convention. So this is the code of the unit that we're currently working on, and then underscore, and then your name, and then underscore 01, and then you'll do the same for the second part, which will include your prototype animation, your final animation, and your timesheet, as well as your JPEG screenshot of your workstation. And then once again, the following naming convention. So as I said, all the instructions are on this particular document, so follow it carefully. I'll fix up the error that's on here. But if you have any questions or want to know anything in particular, please email me. I won't know if you're unsure about anything unless you tell me, and I'm happy to do videos and tutorials to help you. For some students, have actually done tutorials and provided like an example of how they could go about animating their logo if they're really struggling. So if you need me to do that, let me know and we can go through that together. Please make sure you upload all your files to the upload section here. Okay, so storyboard and client brief, obviously your zip folder will go in here. For the final project file, so what I'll do is I'll get you to put your prototype animation here in this section here. So what I might do, I'm just going to edit this now so that you all know exactly what you need to do. So project 2, so the first folder, the zip folder, will be your storyboard and client brief, which is here. This one here, I want you to just put your prototype, so your draft of your animated logo there, so I can give you feedback on how you're going. Oops, didn't work. And then the final project file involves your screenshot, final animation file, timesheet. Okay, for some reason it's not working. I will fix those. I'm not quite sure why it's being slow. I think my internet's been quite slow. So I'll fix those, but please make sure that you update the upload your files in the correct